Good evening, everyone.
Kamatarav, how are you?
Baruch Hashem, thank you. Okay. Okay, so we're almost finished with this topic here. Let's see what we can do today. It's like we're going to bet. This one, okay. Bet and Daled all together, up to Daled. So he brings this tour over here. כתב רמב"ם, צריך שאדם להיות שמח וטוב לב במועד, right, במועד. So he brings Rambam here, that says you have to be, right, joyous on the holiday, you know. There has to be some good joy there going on. So, don't get depressed, Unfortunately, what happens, right, that a lot of people get depressed on the holidays because they can't find, their niche, like what they're supposed to do exactly, what the purpose is. They can't connect to it for some reason, so they get depressed. So, this is like the Yetzer Hara, makes you depressed on the holiday. So you got to overcome that, and try to be, joyous on the holiday. That's the whole point of the holiday. As the verse says, right? V'samachta bechagecha, right? Be joyous on your holiday, it says. So that's what the Rambam is telling you here. Let's see it inside the tour here. Oh, I lost my screen. Give me a second. I'm sorry about that. Let's see if we can retrieve it. Find our screen. Recover the screen. We can recover the screen. All right. We'll try that one more time. Okay. Okay. Looks like we're doing all right. Um, so yeah, now we got to find that Rambam here. Yeah. So here's the Rambam. Here we go. So it says, right, "Chayav adam liyot sameach v'tuv lev b'moed." He has to be happy on the holiday, joyous, good-hearted, right? Hu ve'ishto banav, chol hanilvim elav, right? So he says, right, try to do this also with your wife, and your children and everybody involved there. So meaning what? The joy is contagious, So if you're gonna say you joyous, they're gonna also be joyous. So it's like, everybody will get that bug, the joy bug, right? And everybody's gonna be happy. But if the husband, is like, grouchy and depressed, so then it affects everybody also, brings everybody down. So you gotta watch out with that. Okay. So kol echad karawi lo. Okay, so now he tells you, right? The question is, how do you, right, awaken the joy on the holiday? What's the vehicle, that you have to use? So he says, right, each one according to his own nature. What does that mean? Right? So how you make the children happy? Give them some snacks, some candy, whatever, right? All kinds of stuff like that, right? That's what we're talking about here. Kids like to eat, sweet stuff, right? They like the snack, and right, nash, as they say, right? The Ashkenazim, they like the nash. So yeah, so give them the nash, make sure make them happy. So that's what the kids, right? Now, what about, right, the women, right? What do you buy for the women? Buy for them some nice clothing, right? And also some jewelry. The ladies like that stuff, right? Oh, they like it. So makes them happy, So do that for them.
Very much, Rabbi. The jewelry and clothes.
Okay,
Yes.
I guess I was right. Okay, well, at least I know now I'm right. Okay. Okay, right. So that's the story with the ladies. And so it says, right, do it according to your kefim mamono, right, according to your wealth, right? In other words, whatever you can afford, to buy for your wife, try to get it. Ve'anashim ochlim basar ve'shotin yain. What about the men, right? So they're not into jewelry and stuff like that, right? So what do you do for them? Bring them some, steaks, right? The meat, right, and some wine. That's what makes them happy. So that's for the guys, Right? So each one has his own formula here, right? His own fix. That's the way it goes.
Also, Torah books for women, for a few women like us, Rudy and me, and we love Torah books.
Oh, okay. Well, what if the Torah makes you happy? Then you have a special soul. You know what I mean? Not everybody is on that level, but right. So right. But the truth is, the Torah makes everybody happy. But anyway, right, there has to be also something material, as well. That's what he's trying to say over here. Not only spiritual. So that's the thing, So make them happy, make everybody happy, and so everybody's a happy camper. Don't leave anybody out, and right, it's not good. Make sure everybody's satisfied. That's the trick, right? Okay. So So it goes on here. כשהוא אוכל ושותה חייב להאכיל לגר, ליתום ולאלמנה. So, look what it says, right? But this is a famous Rambam, by the way, here, right? Which I think I posted this already, this Rambam, on my posts. You guys will probably remember it. I think I just recently posted this. So what does it say here, right? That says when you're eating, enjoying your, nice, right, steak, and all kinds of goodies that you're having there, and you're drinking, some nice wine, right, good stuff there. So he says, but don't forget one thing, right? You have to invite the disadvantaged people in your area, right, in your neighborhood, in your your community. So right, he brings invite the ger, right, the convert, and the yatom, right, the orphans, almana, and the widows. So why these people? Because usually they're like alone, sometimes they don't have a family, so it's a mitzvah to bring them into a family and make them joyous, with everybody else, because otherwise they're going to be by themselves, it's very hard. That's the whole thing, that's the whole idea over here. So this is a very much a Jewish thing, it's a Jewish concept, right? To bring all these people there, to your table. You have to remember that, and so he says also, as well as the poor, in other words, if you have some poor people in your neighborhood, they can't afford, to eat the good foods, they can't afford to live the good life like you. So, lift them up a little bit, invite them over, give them something special, give them a treat. So, that's the thing. So, this is a very Jewish thing, especially in the holidays, right? Without a doubt. So he says, right, that but somebody, who just locks the doors of his house, he eats and drinks by himself, with his family, right, whatever. He doesn't feed the poor, he doesn't care about them, just cares about his own stomach, to enlarge his stomach a little bit, right? So, right, a person like that, he says, right, also, right, people who are embittered, embittered, he says. What are people who are embittered? People have like a rough life, they've had some tough breaks in their life, bad breaks, and so they have a very bitter life, and so people like that, you got to help them out. They're down and out, disadvantaged. So, you got to watch out for that. The truth is, that in America, sometimes it's hard to find people like this, because everybody's got like their own thing going on, but if right, some people that are like this, in this category, so you should invite them, of course, if you have the proper means, proper setup to do that, right? In other words, you got a nice family there, right? You have, nice table, nice, ways you can invite them over and make them happy. Okay. So it goes on. Enzo mitzvah. So he says, if you don't do that, there's no mitzvah going on here, right? So what do you do? What are you doing? Just having a family dinner? Well, that's very nice. Where's the mitzvah, right? You do that all the time, with your family. What I mean? What about the people who are disadvantaged? I mean, that's why I tell you guys, if you see a community, wherever it is, near your house or somewhere else, whatever it may be, and they're not, open to, people coming in, and giving them something, giving them some encouragement, giving them some good heart, good kindness, you should know, right? If you see a community like that, they're very cold, and they reject you, and they tell you all kinds of excuses, because of this, because of that. I'll tell you something, you should know. Trust me when I tell you, okay? This kind of community is not worth it to join them, because they're bad people. They treat you like badly. They disrespect you. and they disregard you and they don't acknowledge you, and they bring some excuses. Yeah, they always have some reasons. Why they don't do it. You should know these are bad people. Better not to join them. You know what they say in the Talmud, right? Remember this. It says in the Talmud there was a certain rabbi, who went to a certain city, and he was poor, whatever, so he needed some charity, whatever it was, right? So nobody would give him anything, like nobody would invite him to feed him, nothing. He came to the town. They all knew he was there, but nobody invited him in, to give him something, to help him, to encourage him. Nothing. You know what he says? You know what the conclusion was? He says, Shma mina de emerev rav kate. You know what that means? He says, you see by their behavior that these Jews come from the Erevav. Because they don't have a heart, Jews are very kind people, by nature, So see, if you see a community which doesn't have kindness, especially if the rabbi's like that, uh, nasty person, cruel, don't join a community like that. Stay away from them. They're bad people. So that's the story. That's what the Rambam's telling you over here, Don't be like that, right? Don't be nasty, don't be stingy, don't be cruel. There are people who are disadvantaged, so help them out, Don't just say, yeah, well, they don't deserve it, I guess, if they don't have it, they don't deserve it. You're nasty, terrible person you are. What are you? What kind of person are you? You're a Jew? Yeah. There are some people like this I've seen, Somebody comes to them, for tzedakah, right, to give some charity. So you know what they tell them, right? They tell them, why don't you get a job, Is that the way you treat a poor person? Shame on you. What a terrible person you are. Where do you come from, That's a disgrace. Really is. That's what we're talking about, right?
Or how they treat the orphans, correct? Because
Yeah.
some are like orphans. So
that's the if they don't acknowledge, right, and help, the disadvantaged people in their community, this is a bad community. Very bad. Don't stay away from them. Don't join them. Don't go to their, ceremonies. Don't go to their functions. Don't stay away from them. These are Erev Rav, these people. That's what they are. That's what the Rambam is talking about here. Right? You want to fill up your stomach, with your family. Oh, that's nice. Yeah. Well, you're well off. You got money. You got a good family. Everything's good for you. But and the heck with everybody else, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You're not a good Jew. Erev Rav. So right goes on to say. Right, so says the Rambam, right? This is not a mitzvah. What you're doing, are you just filling up your stomach? What you want them to reward you for that? Because you're having a nice steak with potatoes. What is that? So he says, right, the Rambam, that regarding them, there are verses, brought down in the prophets, about these stingy people, nasty people like this, So there are some nasty words in this verse, Basically, what they're saying is, right, that their food is like, impure, defiled. Why? Because they don't share with anybody. They don't give nothing to nobody. Only me, right? Me, myself, and I. That's all you care about? Yeah, okay. Okay, that's the story, right? So, when you see a nice community, which is like welcoming, and they give you a welcome, and they talk to with you, they encourage you, they invite you. There you see these are real Jews. Okay, that's the story. So let's go on, right? From there. So the Rambam goes on here, right? It's not finished yet. He's got some more choice words, right, for these people. Um, ואף אגב שאכילה ושתייה במועד מצווה עשה היא, so he says, right, that even though, right, he says, right, that eating and drinking on the holiday, right, is a positive commandment from the Torah. לא יהיה אוכל ושותה כל היום, but he says, you know what, don't go too far with this also. What does that mean? Don't eat and drink all day. Like what do you think it is? Some kind of what do you call that? Right? These Mardi Gras. What do you think it is? What do you want to do? Eat all day like some kind of animal? That's too much. So there has to be a time where the meal is over. So now you're gonna go, as we said, study Torah. Do some prayers. How long? What do you want to eat all day? Eat and drink all day? It's no good. So so says the Rambam like this, right? This is the proper way to do it. כל העם משכימים לבתי כנסיות ובתי מדרשות, מתפללים וקוראים בתורה. So he says the first things first, right? When you first wake up, what do? Right? You go to shul and pray, right? I'm talking about the guys, right? That's the order of business over there. Right? You go to shul, right? And you pray, and they read the Torah, right? So then, right, they come home after the prayers are over, right? And then they have a nice meal, right? Beautiful, right? Gorgeous, beautiful. Okay, good. So he says, but then, look what he says, right? They go now back to the Bet Midrash, right? What does that mean? The study hall, right? Whatever you want to call it. What does that mean? They go there to learn Torah. So first they went to prayers, right? Then they came home to eat. And then they go to learn Torah. That's a holiday, right? Not just to sit around all day, around the table and make silly jokes, and that's a holiday. That's not a good holiday. Okay. So he says, right? He says they do that. They learn until half the day, right? When the half the day is up. Okay, which means like midday. As I told you guys, right? Here in America, right? They haven't eaten yet by midday. They're learning a little bit late. So they're a little bit behind the schedule, right? Over here in America, yeah. Right. Midday. Here we're talking about midday. They already finished learning, and in America, right? They haven't even started eating yet. lazy schedule. Right, not good, no good. Right, so then, right, says the Rambam, what do they do after that? They pray mincha, right? The afternoon, time for mincha, right? Pray mincha. The chozrin lebatehen lishtot shar hayom. So he says, then they come home, right, to drink, right? Have some drinks, some cocktails. I don't know, whatever you want to have, right? Okay. Other light, right? So that goes until the night, right? So in other words, right, a little bit of drinking, a little bit right, eating, right, and also right the prayers and then learning Torah. That's how to do the holiday properly. As we said, right, it's like 50-50, right? Half to you, half to Hashem. That's what the Rambam is describing over here. So he says, when a person eats and drinks, right, and is joyous on the holiday, oh, so it keeps on going, right, with the rebuke over here, right, going on. So he says, you know what? When you eat and drink, as we said, right, don't go too far with this, So what does that mean? Like, don't have too much meat, and too much wine, just you keep on going, and you don't stop. You don't have to have 3 servings, of meat, and 4 glasses of wine, right? This is not Pesach, Passover, right? Nobody told you to have 4 glasses of wine. 2 is good, 2 is fine, whatever, right? Why are you drinking 4? What, you want to get drunk. So you want to, make an ass out of yourself, excuse my expression, right? That's what you want to do on the holiday? Not so good, right? That's not the way to do it. Not the proper way. Okay, right. That's what he's saying over here, the Rambam, right? And also he says, right, don't get too much into, right, jokes, joking around and lightheadedness, right? You know, so I remember when I was a kid, like when I came to America, I would see some goyim, they would be doing like some kind of festivities in their house, and I was a little child, just watching, like seeing what's going on. So I remember, on their holidays, what they would do, let's say, it's like Thanksgiving, right? Something like that, right? Whatever, right? They would invite me, to come over there. So I would come, I wouldn't eat by them because I knew it wasn't kosher. So I would just come and watch, like what they're doing, So they would like make a barbecue, eat, eat and drink, right? Have some good food, everything, right? Everything was good. And then they would sit down, after they're drunk, and start making like dirty jokes, all kinds of nonsense, right? All kinds of silly stuff. This is what they do on their holidays, the goyim. I mean, they get silly, they get dirty, they get, icky, it starts to get very distasteful, right? That's what happens with them, because that's what they do, when they get drunk, they lose the proportion altogether, right? Everything dissipates. Is that what a Jew should be doing on the holiday like that? No, it's not the Jewish way. Getting drunk and getting silly, becoming a clown, we don't want that. Right? So says the Rambam. So he says, right, you may think, right, mistakenly, that if you do a lot of this, it's actually good, like you're doing the holiday, being simcha. This is not simcha, the Rambam is telling you, right? This kind of behavior. Right? לפי שאין השחוק וקלות ראש הרבה שמחה. So he says, you should know that laughter and levity is not called simcha in a Jewish approach, right? In Jewish culture. That's not what we call simcha. אלא הוללות וסיכלות. So what is it? It's just you're being silly, you're becoming a clown. Okay, so you want to be a clown and joke around, That's, that you're doing your holiday like a goy. ולא נצטווינו אלא הוללות וסכלות, אלא על שמחה שיש בה עבודות יצר. Right, so he says, right, the Jewish people were not commanded for this kind of stuff. Our commandment is to have simcha that leads you to serving God. So what does that mean? Simcha of Torah, right? Discussing Torah. That's what should be the simcha. Like you said, right? Torah is simcha. So, that's where it comes in. So there you go, right? That's the way it's supposed to be. The Rambam is telling you here, right? The Jewish approach, the Jewish culture, the Jewish viewpoint, right? Okay, so he goes on here more, the Rambam. So, okay, but before we do that, let's go to Bet Yosef, right? I think it's a different story over there. Let's go to Bet Yosef. So doing bet, right? Methodology. Yeah. Okay, here it is. So it says over here, if you said Hakol b'perek vav. So he just brings a place in the Rambam, right? So where is this? In the 6th perek, right, of chapter of Laws of Yom Tov over there. If you want to see it inside, be my guest. It starts from 17 until 21. So then it goes on, right? That we said, right? Whatever the women enjoy, the men enjoy, right? All these things. Rambam concludes there. So he says, right, that simcha is with meat, right? As we said, right? Especially for the men. That's what we're talking about, the men. Their simcha, the men, right, is to have meat. So you better make sure, right, on the holiday, right, you give your man, right, some meat, otherwise he's going to be looking at you like, what do you give me, salad over here? What, egg salad? Come on, where's the real food? He's not a woman. I speak to, things have, changed a little bit in our generation, as you notice, right? A lot of women that I speak to, they tell me that they hardly eat any meat, like mostly mostly vegetarian, and they tell me, yeah, sometimes I have a little piece of turkey, or something, something like that, right? They don't eat really a lot of meat. A lot of ladies today, it's become like a very, very common in our generation, and they have a reason for that. It's just they don't feel like it's healthy for them, whatever. But they think sometimes, that the men are also like that. The men are not like that, so don't try that with the guys. Okay. If you don't like to eat meat, right, doesn't mean your husband doesn't want to eat meat. It's not the same thing. So you better learn how to make some meat for your husband, right? Otherwise, what are you going to feed him? You're going to give him some peanut butter? Like he's going to look at you like, what is this? So that's the way it is. Okay. There are still some ladies, who they like to eat meat. I knew some ladies in Israel. They would chop down some steaks, like nothing, like nobody's business. So it really depends on the ladies, right? But there's a lot of ladies like that now. They don't want to eat meat anymore. It's a whole thing. It's a whole movement now. It's catching on, right? It's very, very strong. Okay. So anyway, right? He goes on here. It's also with wine, right? So in other words, as we said, right, the men like, their meat, right, and they like their wine. So give it to them, whatever they want, right? Let them, make them happy, right? And don't tell them, oh well, yeah, you should find this joy in God, excuse me, what do you mean joy in God? This is, what it says in halakha, Don't try to make me into an angel, People are not angels; they need to eat. So it's also important, so you got to remember that. Keep that in mind. So he goes on, right? As we said, right? Pek Arab Psachim. So it says in Psachim, Kuftet Amud Aleph, Tanu Rabbanan, Chayav Adam lesameach banav b'nei beto b'regel b'ma. So it's again, right? We're going back to that thing we spoke about in the tour. So now he brings the Gemara, right? Where is this in Psachim? So it says there, right, that a person is also obligated to give joy to his family, right? Not only himself, right? What, you only worry about your own stomach? That's all you care about, right? What about your wife? What about your children? I mean, you got to worry about them too. So what do, right? It says, right, as we said, right, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, "Menashim barawi lahem, menashim barawi lahem, menashim barawi lahem, bayan menashim barawi lahem, tanei Rabbi Yosef Babel, b'bagdei tzivonin, b'bigdei tzivonin, b'eretz Yisrael," right? So bigdei pishtan. So he says, right, that the women like, as we said, right, they like clothing, So get them some stuff, Buy them some nice clothing, that they enjoy to wear for the holiday, right? Especially, don't buy them, weekday stuff, weekday clothing. They don't want that for the holiday. What are you going to do, right? Buy them, what do you call it? A jeans jacket? That's not what she's going to wear for the holiday? I mean, buy them some nice stuff, that they enjoy to wear, right? Maybe some colorful stuff, whatever it is, right? Embroidered, I don't know, God knows, whatever it is, right? All that good stuff. So here he brings, some things, right, that they used to wear in those days, right? The certain types of clothing. So each generation, right, has their own thing, their own fashion, their fads, right, all kinds of stuff. So you give them whatever is accepted in that generation. To be good clothing, whatever the women like, whatever is right. That's the idea. tell you guys something really funny, since we got to this topic. Yesterday, okay, I went to shul, and so usually like as I told you guys, right, there's no ladies there on the weekdays, I mean, nobody comes in there, no ladies there. But all of a sudden, right, yesterday, all of a sudden, a woman pops up into the ladies section, uh, and so like I look up, and I see a lady there, I'm like, what's going on here? There's a lady here. So right, I looked at her a little bit more carefully. And I see, she's not dressed properly. I mean, indecent. Like, what does that mean? She's got like a lot of cleavage, on her chest. I like, and that like, I was like, that bothered me. I was like, oh man, this is no good. Not nice, right? So I held my ground, because I was praying. I just looked away, and whatever. I didn't see her anyway that good because she covered her, with the veil. She put a veil, right? She covered it with the veil, but. Anyway, right after we finished the prayers, I was walking out and I see the lady, like right in front of me. And I was like, excuse me, but you shouldn't come to shul, wearing this kind of clothing. Showing cleavage like this, so this lady, right, kind of like clever, she tells me, she says, he says, okay, Rabbi, but it says, don't tell me in front of people here, you're embarrassing me. you know. So I told her, I said, I'm sorry, but I have no choice, because you're coming here into shul, and you're indecent, you're dressed indecently. I have to tell you, I have no choice. So he says, but you're not allowed to embarrass me, Rabbi. She tells me, right? I said, no, you're not right. I told her, I said, that's not the halakha. So I walked out, and we kind of like, had a little spat there, So good. Okay. So right, now I come back to shul tonight. Right? All of a sudden, same lady pops in tonight, This time, she's dressed modestly. Okay? I noticed it right away. I was like, oh, gee, oh. I didn't even know if it was the same lady, because she looked so different. She was dressed modestly this time. So, okay, so I sat there, I prayed, and then what I did was, since I noticed that she was there, I said to myself, let me give some divrei Torah, about this topic to explain to her why I had to rebuke her like that. So if you guys listen to my divrei Torah tonight in the shul, you're going to see exactly that's what I do. That's what I spoke about. Listen to my divrei Torah tonight in the shul. It's on It's on Facebook. I'll put it on YouTube also later on. So, and then we did Arvit, we prayed, and then I'm just walking out, the shul, right, as usual. So the lady stops me, the same lady, right, from yesterday. And she tells me, says, Rabbi, says, can I speak to you for a second? I was like, sure, no problem. Right. So she tells me, says, I'm sorry. Says, I want to apologize for what I told you yesterday. Says, I didn't speak to you properly. So I said, it's fine. Don't worry. I told her, I said, no problem. I understand you very well. But, I think that, the lecture that I gave her there, actually, I think she understood why I did what I did. So if you guys want to understand also, listen to the lecture, right? And you'll see, right? It's only like 11 minutes, something. So you'll get it over there, right? So why do I tell you this over here? Because, when you buy clothing, right, you have to make sure you buy modest clothing, right, for the women, right, especially. Don't buy, your wife, some cleavage, and the shorts, right, the short, right, the mini skirts, and right things like this. You gotta buy her decent, modest clothing. Otherwise, you're causing your wife to sin, by wearing, this indecent stuff. No good. When I see, one of the ladies, that we know, like you guys know, who I'm talking about, I'm not going to mention any names. Sometimes when they post, on Facebook, some posts, with immodest clothing, the ladies, I text them, I tell them, I said, please, don't post these kinds of things. You're causing the men to sin, they have to look at these indecent things. And they understand me, they get it, but sometimes they forget, whatever, just slips their mind. But You're not allowed to do that. You have to make sure you post. Right? If you're with your husband, in the privacy of your own home, you can dress the way you want for your husband. I don't care about that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when you're in front of a people. That you cannot do that like that. You have to know where you are. Okay, right? You get the point. So clothing is good, but there's also limitations. Okay, good. So let's go on, right? A little bit here.
Is there also something about like getting jewelry?
Yeah, before you came in,
Okay.
we mentioned that, but I think we're going to mention it again, right? Because since you came in, we have to talk about it again. Otherwise, you're skipping it. You're missing
I'm
it.
sorry,
So
I just
we're
didn't
going to
know
do it
if
again.
started.
Don't worry.
I apologize. I'll go back and watch the whole thing.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Don't worry. Don't worry. Before the end, we'll discuss that. So, right, I know the women like the jewelry, so I'm going to. Okay. So, okay. So, anyway, right, as we said, the clothing, right? So it tells you, right? Then it goes on. Rabbi Omer, "Bizman shebet hamikdash kayam, en simcha ela babasar." So he says, this rabbi says like this: when the temple was existent, right, still standing, then the real simcha was with meat. Right? The meat was a big thing there. Why is that? Because they would bring sacrifices, right? And those sacrifices were holy. So when you ate that meat, it gave you like a big lift. Like spiritually, it was like something, bliss, like a certain kind of a bliss there. Shemar, as it says, "V'zavachta shelamim v'achalta Hashem v'semachta v'achshav." Right. So that's the thing. Today we don't have holy meat. Today, right? But in those days they had holy meat. So that was something special. That we don't have that today. So he says now that the temple is not standing, and simcha ela b'yain. So now it's only wine, right? So like he makes this, differentiation, right? Meat and wine, right? But the truth is that we paskin not like that. We paskin that you should have both. The men. I'm talking about, right? Some meat, some wine, right? They're both good. Simcha ela, we're going to see that right in the halacha also. Ela b'yain shenemar b'yain yisamech levav enosh. Right? It says in the pasuk there, right? In Tehillim, right? That wine gladdens your heart, right? Of mankind. Right, so here, right now, this is a good question, right? But Yosef asks. But didn't we see in the Rambam, right, that he said you should do both, right? Wine and also meat. But according to this Gemara, right, it should be only wine, because meat is only from the temple. So how is that, right? He's asking a good question, the Bet Yosef. So what is he going to answer? Let's see what he answers here. למה הוא צריך שיאכלו בשר וישתו יין? אבל בעת הקטנה בזמן הזה אין שמחה אלא ביין. ומשמע דביין סגיד ולא בשר. Right. So interesting, right? He has no answer for that, the Beit Yosef. He asked a question, on the Rambam, but no answer. Right? Interesting. That means he doesn't have an answer. Okay. But it doesn't mean, by the way, it's not the halacha. We're going to see in the Shulchan Aruch what he says there, right? I think he passes like the Rambam anyway, even though he has no answer. Okay. So anyway, right, goes on here. As we said, right, when it comes to children, give them snacks, right, treats, candy, right, all that good stuff, right, the sweet stuff. That's what the kids like, So, buy them some candies, buy them some chocolates, right, buy them some, nuts, right, all kinds of stuff, goodies. Make them happy. That's what makes them happy. Right? I remember, I'll tell you guys something really funny, my Rabbi, I remember this, so vividly. That every time a child will come into a synagogue, and the child would come to the rabbi, to get a blessing, because, everybody wanted the rabbi's blessing, you know what I mean? Like anybody and everybody was rushing to come there for a blessing from the rabbi, So if some kid would come up to him, when he was in the shul, guess what he would do, right? He would open up his little cubby there, He had some candy stashed away and give them candies, Always gave the kids candies. So, right, right? The kids like candies, so give them what they like. Okay, so Yeah, the Tanya was said, so it's in the Breita like this, right? The Perek Arbe Psachim, right? In Psachim, Amu al Rabbi Akiva, right? Rabbi Akiva, right? I told you about my rabbi. Let's see what Rabbi Akiva did, right? So it says, Mechalek Kaliot Begozim Synagogue. He would also hand out treats to the children, right? Where was that? When was that? Be'er Pesach, right? On the eve of Passover. You know why the eve of Passover? What's the reason? So they shouldn't fall asleep, and be awake for the Haggadah, right? That's the idea. As you know, right? It's a mitzvah to keep them awake that night, המפרש הטעם, טעמה כדי שלא ישנו וישאלו, אם כן, היכא דלא שייך הטעמה, מנהל לא צריך עיון. So he asked another question, right? Since that was only talking about Passover, how does the Rambam know that also applies to other holidays as well? Another question, right? And no answer. So there you go, right? He has two questions here on the Rambam, no answer. Okay? But let's see the Shulchan Aruch, right? What's the bottom line? Let's see. So it says here, the Rabbi, not this one, this one. Right, so it says like this, right? The whole rundown, right, from the beginning. Chayav adam liot sameach v'tuv lev b'moed, right? As we said, right? A person has to be joyous and good-hearted on the holiday. Don't get depressed. Don't get, angry. Don't use your temper. This is not a holiday thing, You gotta control yourself. Be joyous. Be happy. Who veishto, right? You and your wife, right? And your children, right? Everybody should be happy. Right? And also the whole entourage, right? That's there, in your house, right? Whatever. So again, right? We're doing the rundown. How do you make everybody happy? What do you do, right? The little kids, you give them treats, right? As we said, right? Okay, that's right, known. And the women, right? As we said, right? What do you do with them? Get them clothing and jewelry. As we said, I told you we're going to mention it, right? Jewelry. And right, right, and according to his financial, ability, right? Obviously, somebody who is a middle class guy, just doing a job, he can't buy his wife, a 5-carat diamond ring, So you have to know, yeah, you do the best you can according to your ability, That's what it's all about. Yeah, so that's the story there. And then he goes on, right? So again, right, he says, we're mentioning this again, right? You have to, it's not just suggested, okay? It's obligated, he says, right? To what? To feed the converts, the atom, right? The orphans, almana, right? The widows, imsharim, and also the poor, right? So as we said, right? Why these categories? Because they're usually lonely, right? They don't have a family, so you have to invite them in and bring them into the family. How are they going to enjoy the holiday, just being by themselves? You know what I mean? What kind of holiday is that? That's the whole point. So it says in parentheses here, right, when it comes to fasting on Yom Tov, it's just like Shabbat, right? So we already said, right? If you had like a very scary dream, sometimes we allow you to fast, so forth and so on, right? So that's the story. Okay, so I guess we'll stop there, whatever. And so B'ezras Hashem, we'll see you next week, right? But here's the thing, right? I'm telling you guys, I'm flying on Sunday, to Los Angeles. So I don't think I'll be here on Sunday, so I'll probably see you guys on Monday, because I'm coming back the day after.
Why not tomorrow?
Right, tomorrow is going to be good. Tomorrow is fine.
Okay.
Right. Tomorrow as usual, right? But Sunday, just letting you know, right? Sunday, I probably won't be around. So B'ezras Hashem, I'll see you guys tomorrow night, as we said, right? For sure. So thanks for coming. Be blessed with wealth and health and happiness. Laila Tov, Chazak Baruch, and right, Hashem should give you only joyous occasions. Amen, amen. Laila Tov.
Kavod Harav, thank you so much.
God bless.
Rabbi, take us to Los Angeles, all of us.
No problem. You guys want to come? You're all invited.
Okay.
God bless.
Thank you.